Jake never thought his life would change because of a joke. He worked as a technician at a small satellite relay station in the middle of Nevada. The job was boring most of the time. There were no exciting missions, no aliens, no space mysteries, just cables, screens, and long, quiet nights. To pass the time, Jake and his co-workers often pulled pranks on each other. It was their way of keeping the boredom away. One night during a slow shift, one of Jake's friends found a strange website on the dark side of the internet. The website claimed you could marry an alien bride by filling out a simple form. The site looked like a joke, colorful pictures of green-skinned women, silly descriptions, and promises of messages from outer space. It was so ridiculous that everyone laughed. That's when someone challenged Jake. "Come on, Jake," said Marcus, his closest friend. "You're always the brave one. Let's see if you can handle an alien wife." Jake grinned. "Fine, I'll do it. Just wait till she shows up at your door instead of mine." Laughing, Jake filled out the form. He made up a fake name for the bride, clicked random answers, and even uploaded a funny picture of himself in a cowboy hat. He pressed submit and forgot about it 5 minutes later. It was just a joke, like hundreds of others they had done before. But something strange happened the next day. Jake started getting weird emails from an unknown address. The messages were written in a language he couldn't understand. At first, he thought someone was messing with him. Maybe one of his friends hacked his email to keep the joke going. But when he showed the emails to Marcus, his friend looked just as confused. "Man, this isn't from me," Marcus said. "I don't even know how to write like this." The symbols looked alien. Curved lines, dots, and shapes that didn't match any language on Earth. Jake tried to translate them online, but nothing worked. The messages kept coming, one after another, growing more complex each day. Then, a week later, a package arrived at the satellite station. It was a black, square box with no address, no postage, and no return label. The only thing written on it was Jake's name, carved in silver letters on the lid. Everyone gathered around him as he opened it. Inside was a small, glowing crystal, clear but humming with a soft light. The moment Jake touched it, a tiny spark leaped into his hand. It didn't hurt, but it felt warm, almost like it recognized him. From that day on, things got even stranger. Jake began hearing a soft voice in his dreams. It wasn't scary. It was calm, almost musical. The voice said his name again and again. He started waking up at odd hours of the night, feeling like something was watching him, but when he looked, no one was there. Then, 2 nights later, she appeared. Jake was on his regular night shift at the station. The desert around him was dark and silent, except for the occasional howl of coyotes. At around 2 a.m., the alarms went off. The sensors had detected something. Something that wasn't a satellite, a drone, or a plane. Jake checked the screen. A glowing object had landed about 300 meters from the station, right in the desert. He grabbed a flashlight and went outside to check. As he walked into the open land, he saw a figure standing near the edge of a rock. It was a woman, tall, calm, and silent. She had human-like features, eyes, hands, hair, but her presence felt different, like she didn't fully belong in this world. She spoke in a clear, soft voice. "Jake Taylor." He froze. "That's me? Who are you?" "I am Thalexa. Your request has been accepted." "My what?" "Your call for connection. The form. The bond." Jake's mouth went dry. "Wait, that website? That was a joke. It wasn't real." Thalexa tilted her head. "We received your information through the interlink gate. You were chosen. I have come for the bonding trial." Jake didn't know what to say. He looked around, expecting cameras or his co-workers to jump out and shout, "Gotcha!" But no, one came. It was just him, Thalexa, and the silent night. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Jake said slowly. "I didn't mean any of that. It was just a prank." Thalexa's face didn't change. She reached into a small pouch and pulled out the same glowing crystal Jake had received. You touched the signal. The process has begun. You were honest in your answers, even if your intent was playful. My kind does not judge emotion in the same way. She didn't seem angry or upset. In fact, her voice remained peaceful. I am here to learn, to understand. If you do not wish to continue, I will return. But once I leave, I cannot come back. Jake stared at her. Everything in him wanted to walk away. It was too strange, too fast, too unreal. But something about her voice and eyes made him pause. He didn't feel threatened. Instead, he felt curious. Okay, he said. I don't know what this is, but you can stay. For now. Thalexa nodded once. Then the connection trial begins. Jake helped her into the station and gave her a blanket and some water. She looked at everything like it was new. Even the ceiling fan amazed her. For the first time in years, Jake felt like something real was happening, something big. The prank was over, but the story was just beginning. The next morning, Jake woke up early. He wasn't sure if the night before had been a dream or real, but when he walked into the small living room of the satellite station's resting area, he saw her. Thalexa was standing near the window, staring at the sky. The early morning sun painted a soft golden glow over the desert. Her silver robe shimmered slightly in the light. She turned to him with a calm expression. Good morning, Jake, she said softly. Jake nodded, still unsure how to act. So, you're really still here? Yes, she replied. The bonding trial has started. I must learn from you. Jake rubbed his eyes and made some coffee. Look, I don't know what this trial is or what you expect. I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought it was just a silly website. Thalexa didn't seem offended. Intent matters less than connection. Many great discoveries begin by accident. Jake didn't know how to argue with that. He sat down with his coffee, still watching her. Everything about her looked human. 2 eyes, 2 arms, a normal voice. But there were little things that reminded him she wasn't from Earth. She moved too gracefully, her voice had no strong emotion, and her eyes seemed to see more than just what was in front of her. Over the next few days, Thalexa stayed with Jake. She asked many questions about Earth, people, emotions, food, sleep, dreams. She wrote in a small book that glowed when she touched it. Sometimes she would stare at the stars for hours, silently thinking. Jake felt confused. He didn't believe in aliens before. Now one was living in his station. And the strangest part? He didn't feel afraid. Thalexa didn't act like someone who wanted to harm. She was curious, gentle, and calm. At first, Jake tried to keep her a secret. He didn't tell Marcus or any of the other workers. Thalexa would hide whenever someone else came by. She understood the danger and never argued. Your kind is not ready, she once said. Fear grows in silence, and truth breaks it. During this time, Jake and Thalexa began to talk more deeply. She told him about her world, Andrelon, a place beyond the stars hidden from human eyes. Her people were highly advanced, but had become emotionally distant. They didn't understand feelings like humans did: love, sadness, joy, anger. So they began a long mission to study emotional bonding. Jake's message, even as a prank, had reached them. It was strange, full of humor, but honest. That's why they chose him. Why not choose a scientist? Jake asked one evening. Because truth often lives in ordinary souls, she answered. And you were unguarded. That is rare. Jake didn't know if he believed all of it, but he listened. Thalexa told him that she volunteered for this mission, even though others warned her not to go. She wanted to understand more than just data, she wanted to feel. One night, Jake took her outside to look at the stars through his old telescope. She smiled as he explained the constellations. Your people connect stars with stories, she said. We connect them with purpose. Jake chuckled. Maybe both matter. As days turned into weeks, Thalexa started acting more human. She learned to cook simple meals. She tried wearing jeans and a hoodie. She laughed at a movie Jake showed her, though she didn't fully understand it. She even helped him fix a broken radio tower, showing knowledge far beyond anything he knew. They grew closer. Jake felt it, and he noticed small changes in her. Sometimes she would sit quietly and stare at him, as if trying to understand something deep inside. One night, she asked him, "Do you think I am a machine?" Jake blinked. "No. Why would I think that?" "Because I do not feel things the way you do. But I want to." Jake paused. "You're not a machine. You're just different. And honestly, I think you feel more than you know." That night, Thalexa stood by his side longer than usual. She didn't speak much, but the silence felt warm. They weren't just strangers anymore, but nothing lasts forever. One morning, Jake woke up to find her gone. The bed was empty. Her robe was gone. The glowing book was closed. No message. No goodbye. Just silence. Jake searched everywhere. He walked the desert, called her name, even stayed up for 3 nights in case she returned. But she didn't. The crystal that had once glowed when he touched it now sat quiet in the box. Jake was lost. She had become part of his world, and now it felt empty. He couldn't talk to anyone about it. Who would believe that an alien came into his life through a prank? For weeks he went to work, came home, and sat quietly. He didn't laugh at jokes anymore. The desert sunsets looked dull. Even the stars didn't shine the same way. Still, a small part of him believed she would come back. He kept the crystal near his bed. Every night before sleeping, he looked at it and whispered, "Come back." He didn't know if she heard him, but he never stopped hoping. And somewhere, deep in the universe, Thalexa was watching. Time passed. But Jake never forgot Thalexa. Every morning he woke up hoping to find her outside the station. Every night he looked at the stars, wondering if she was looking back at him from somewhere far away. But she never came. The glowing crystal she had given him stayed quiet, no longer warm, no longer shining. At first, Jake felt confused and heartbroken. He kept asking himself the same question. Why did she leave without a word? He had started to care about her, even if she wasn't from Earth. She had become something more than a guest or a visitor. She was part of his strange, lonely world. Eventually, Jake quit his job at the satellite station. He told everyone he was moving on to new things. His friends joked that maybe his alien wife had called him back to space. Jake smiled at their jokes, but inside, he didn't laugh. They would never understand. He moved to Arizona and took a quiet job at a science outreach center. He worked with kids, helping them build simple rockets and look at stars through telescopes. He didn't talk much, but the children liked him. They said he had a spaceman's heart. Maybe it was true. Jake kept to himself. He didn't go out with friends anymore. He didn't date. He spent most of his free time reading about space, listening to deep space signals, and writing in his journal. His small home was filled with star maps and photos of planets. But one thing he kept, hidden, the glowing crystal. He placed it in a wooden box and locked it in a drawer. Every few weeks he would take it out, hoping for even a tiny flicker of light. But nothing happened. As months passed, Jake started to accept that maybe Thalexa was gone forever. Maybe she had been called back to her world. Maybe she wasn't allowed to stay. Or maybe she had never really meant to come in the first place. He didn't know, and that made it harder. 1 year after she disappeared, something strange happened. Jake was walking home late from the outreach center. It was a cool night, and the sky was full of stars. He stopped to look up like he always did, but this time he saw something. 3 lights moving slowly across the sky in a perfect triangle. They weren't planes. They didn't blink. They glowed smoothly and moved in silence. Then one of the lights broke away and came down. Slowly, carefully, it moved across the sky until it vanished behind the trees near his house. Jake froze. Could it be? He ran home as fast as he could. His heart pounded. He reached the porch and looked around. Nothing. Just trees and shadows. But then he felt it, a warm hum deep in the ground, like a soft vibration under his feet. He opened the door and stepped inside. And there she was, Thalexa. She was standing in the middle of his living room, wearing the same robe she wore when she first arrived at the station. Her face looked the same, but her eyes had a deeper glow. She looked tired but peaceful. Jake couldn't move. He couldn't speak. "You came back," he finally whispered. Thalexa nodded slowly. "I had to." Jake walked closer. "Where did you go? Why did you leave me?" She looked down. "I had to return to my world. The trial was complete. I gave them my report." Jake felt a coldness in his chest. "So, that was it? I was just part of your experiment?" "No," she said softly. "You were part of my change." Jake looked into her eyes, confused. "What do you mean?" Thalexa placed her hand on her stomach. At first, Jake didn't understand. Then he saw it. A soft roundness under her robe. Not large, but clear. He took a step back. You're pregnant?" Thalexa nodded. "Yes." Jake's mind spun. He sat down, trying to make sense of everything. "Is it mine?" "Yes," she said calmly. "It is yours and mine. A bond formed by truth, not just science." Jake was silent. He didn't know whether to feel happy, scared, shocked, or all of them at once. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you stay?" "My leaders did not allow it. They were afraid of change. They saw our bond as a risk to our culture. But I could not forget what I learned here, what I felt, so I made a choice." Jake looked up. "You left everything to come back?" Thalexa nodded. "I escaped. I do not know if they are following, but I could not raise this child away from its origin. From you." Jake felt tears in his eyes, but he wiped them quickly. He stood up and gently held her hands. "You're safe now. You can stay here. We'll figure everything out." Thalexa smiled. "I believe that." Jake led her to the small guest room. It wasn't much, but it was warm. He brought her tea and blankets. That night, for the first time in a long time, Jake slept peacefully. He didn't know what would happen next. The world was still the same outside. People still laughed, worked, and went on with their lives, never knowing what was happening in his quiet little home. But Jake knew everything had changed, and somewhere deep inside, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Jake's quiet home in Arizona became a different place after Thalexa returned. The rooms that once felt empty now felt full of life. Thalexa moved softly around the house, still learning Earth habits, but she looked more human than ever. She wore soft clothes, kept her long hair tied back, and even smiled more. But her eyes still held a secret sadness, like someone carrying a heavy truth. Every morning, Jake would make breakfast, usually toast and eggs, and Thalexa would watch him carefully. Sometimes she helped, although she always cracked eggs in a strange way, as if they were some kind of puzzle. Jake laughed often, something he hadn't done in months. He still found it hard to believe she was back, and pregnant with his child. As days passed, they started to prepare. Jake cleared out his small study and turned it into a nursery. He bought soft blankets, tiny clothes, and even a second-hand crib. Thalexa didn't understand some of it, like why babies needed stuffed animals or music boxes, but she trusted Jake. "You know more about this world than I do," she would say. They also spent time walking in the nearby forest. Thalexa liked the trees and the sounds of birds. She said nature on Earth felt peaceful, like a place where her child could grow safely. But not everything was easy. One evening, as the sun was setting, Thalexa stood on the back porch holding the glowing crystal. Jake walked out and stood beside her. The crystal was lit again, for the first time since she left. "They found me," she said quietly. Jake froze. "Your people?" She nodded. "I left without permission. Some may come to take me back." Jake's chest tightened. "Will they hurt you?" "No," she said. "But they might separate us. They believe this child is not part of the plan." Jake clenched his fists. "Well, I won't let them. You're safe here, with me." Thalexa placed the crystal on the porch floor and covered it with her hands. The light dimmed. "I've created a temporary block. They won't track me for now, but we must prepare." Jake spent the next few days setting up quiet alarms around the property, small sensors and cameras just in case. He didn't tell anyone about Thalexa. Not even his co-workers. He knew the world wouldn't understand. People weren't ready for a truth like this. One night, as the two sat under the stars, Thalexa turned to him and said, "I never told you everything." Jake looked at her. "What do you mean?" "When I left, I didn't just leave behind my people. I left behind a mission, a promise." Jake listened quietly. "My kind is not cruel, but they are strict. They believe love is weakness. They use science to build connection, but never feelings. I volunteered for this bond trial to learn more, but I didn't expect to feel anything real." "You changed that." Jake's voice was soft. "So what happens now?" "I don't know," she said. "If they find us, they might try to erase my memories. They might take the child, or they might leave quietly, watching from a distance. But I had to come back, no matter the risk." Jake gently took her hand. "We'll face it together." The baby continued to grow. Thalexa's movements became slower and she began to rest more. Jake took care of everything, shopping, cleaning, even learning how to cook healthier food for her. She taught him how to use the crystal to detect changes in her body. It worked like a medical scanner, showing colors and light patterns. One day, while checking the crystal, it glowed with soft pink light. "That means the child is bonding with both parents," Thalexa said with a smile. "It is feeling." Jake smiled too. "Good. I want our child to feel everything: love, happiness, peace." That evening, while sitting by the fireplace, Thalexa placed Jake's hand on her belly. "She kicked," Jake said with wide eyes. "She knows you," Thalexa replied. "Your touch, your voice, even your fear." Jake looked down. "I am scared," he admitted. "Not of being a father, but of losing all this." Thalexa leaned her head on his shoulder. "You already gave me something my world could not. Freedom to choose." "I will not forget that." Just then, a strange humming filled the air. The crystal on the shelf glowed again, brighter this time. Jake stood up quickly. "They're close, aren't they?" Thalexa nodded slowly. "Yes, but not here yet." Jake looked out the window. The sky looked normal. No ships, no lights, no signs. But he knew better now. Her kind didn't always move in ways humans could see. They had limited time. Thalexa activated a small shield device she had hidden in her robe when she returned. It created a faint wave around the house, hiding it from scanning. "This will protect us for a while," she explained, "but we must plan for what comes next." Jake stayed awake that night, sitting near the window, watching the stars. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He just knew he had something worth protecting. Inside, Thalexa slept peacefully, one hand on her growing belly. She trusted Jake, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly safe. Not on her. Home planet, not among her own kind, but here, on Earth, with someone who saw her not as an experiment, but as a person. The days passed quietly but with an undercurrent of tension. Jake and Thalexa lived carefully, knowing that at any moment her people could find them. The shield around the house worked well, hiding them from any scans or tracking. But Jake knew it was only a matter of time before the truth came out. Thalexa's pregnancy grew stronger, and with it, their bond deepened. Jake spent every waking moment preparing for the arrival of their child. He read books about babies, watched videos, and asked questions to doctors he trusted, though he never told them the full story. At night, he would sit beside Thalexa and listen as she talked softly to the baby. Sometimes she sang songs in her own language, gentle melodies that sounded like the wind through the trees. Jake learned to say a few words too, trying to understand her culture. The baby was unlike anything the world had seen. It was a mix of two very different worlds, human and Andrellan. The crystal glowed softly whenever the child moved, and it seemed to respond to their emotions. When Jake and Thalexa were calm, the light was peaceful and warm. When they were worried or scared, it flickered and pulsed faster. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Thalexa's water broke. Jake helped her to the bed, calming her with soft words and steady hands. Though the birth was different from anything he had known, it was filled with love and hope. The baby was born healthy, a tiny, perfect child with bright eyes that seemed to shine with a light of their own. They named him Kale. Kale's features were mostly human, but his eyes were larger and his skin had a soft glow. He opened his eyes and looked directly at Jake. In that moment, Jake knew his life had changed, forever. The weeks after Kale's birth were a mix of joy and fear. Jake and Thalexa watched over their son carefully, hiding him from the world. They knew the dangers were real. Her people might still come for them. But Kale was growing fast. He learned to crawl and then walk within months. He spoke in simple words, but his understanding was deep. Sometimes he would stare at the stars and smile, as if he recognized something beyond Earth. One day, strange lights appeared again in the sky. Jake's heart raced. They were not just watching anymore. Someone was coming. Jake and Thalexa prepared quietly. The shield was stronger now, and they had built secret hiding places in the forest nearby. Kale, too young to understand, stayed. Close, feeling the tension but safe with his parents. Then, one clear night, a ship appeared over the forest. It was unlike anything Jake had seen. Large and silent, glowing softly with colors that changed like a rainbow. A door opened and figures stepped out. They were tall, dressed in shining silver suits, with calm but serious faces. Thalexa stepped forward, holding Kale's hand tightly. "We are not enemies," she said clearly. "This child is part of both worlds." The leader of the group looked at Kale, then at Thalexa and Jake. There was a long silence. Finally, the leader spoke. "This child is unique. He carries the future of both our peoples. We come not to harm, but to watch and learn." Jake breathed slowly, feeling relief and hope. The visitors stayed for many days, talking quietly with Thalexa and Jake. They explained that their culture had changed. They had begun to understand that emotions and connections were important after all. Kale was a symbol of that change. Before they left, the leader gave Jake and Thalexa a small device. "This will protect your family. Use it wisely." The visitors disappeared into the night, leaving Jake, Thalexa, and Kale alone again. Life slowly returned to normal. Jake watched Kale grow, teaching him about Earth and the stars. Thalexa shared stories of her home and hopes for the future. Together they built a family that was both strange and beautiful, a bridge between two worlds. Jake never forgot the prank that started it all. What began as a joke became the most real and meaningful story of his life. and as he looked up at the stars each night, he knew their journey was only just beginning.